This video is about reading scholarly articles. So first thing, when you discover a topic that you're interested in and you go and you try to find some articles, I've shown you how to find the articles, but you need to pause and read the article first. And I don't mean necessarily read every single word, but certainly read the abstract of the article. Most scholarly research, if not every scholarly article, has some sort of a summary at the beginning, and that would be the abstract. Now, I say most because not all scholarly research has abstracts. For example, the article that you have to read for chapter 1 doesn't have an abstract, but it's a very short article. So what I mean by that is, here is I'm going to show you a paper that I published not too long ago. And it has this abstract on the first page. So you'll notice that I can read the abstract to see if this is the topic that I'm sort of interested in. So the purpose of this research is to examine the impact of factors beyond the professor's control on student teaching evaluations. So that means that it's going to look at student teaching evaluations, but it's not necessarily going to be looking at what the instructor puts into it, but some of the perceptions of students. So, okay, so that might be interesting to me if that's my topic that I'm interested in. It should tell me the design or the method, so it'll tell me if it's a empirical paper, meaning they use data to do the research, or if it's a theory piece or whatever. For this class, you're going to want to find empirical research, at least some. And so, the design or methodology, can be important. Then the findings, that's important because this will tell you briefly kind of what they've found support for. So this study tells us that 5 out of 6 hypotheses are supported, and it gives you a very brief summary. It says, yes, that student teaching evaluations are likely to be the highest in small elective classes, the lowest and large required classes taught by females, and they also find support that in higher ed, the higher grades are expected with higher teaching evaluations. Okay, so that might be useful to me, but knowing that is important. The next thing I want you to pay attention to is the introduction. The introduction ought to give you a really quick summary of the topic in a little more detail than the abstract, but sometimes the abstract is misleading, and then you read the introduction and you're like, wait a minute, that's not really the same, or yes, it is the same. So reading the introduction is helpful. Now, the next section is always going to be the literature review. So in the literature review, this is going to tell you what has been done before. So this is a great way to find other research on your topic, and it's also a great way to see if your topic's been done before. So in this, you'll see that here, the first variable is the class type. So, or whether it's core or elective. So here I talk about the different research things, research papers that have been done with respect to class type. But you'll notice that in particular, the hypothesis I have, student teaching evaluations in elective classes will be higher than in required classes, is somewhat different than what is here. So this tells me, okay, so this is the research on class type. This is what's been done before. Then I move into class size. Same thing, research before, the hypothesis, then the stuff about gender, and the hypothesis, grades, etc. So this is useful for a couple things. One, it tells you the research that's been done before, and it gives you the sites. So if you need more research on one particular element of your topic, here is a great way to find it, because it gives you all the sites that are going to be located at the end. So that's important. Then this next thing it tells us is the statistics that were done on the paper. So at this point in this class, just skip over this. We don't need to worry about it. We'll get into this as the course goes on. But for now, just know that the section is here. Make sure there is a methodology section, and that's enough. We're going to move on. And then we're going to move down here to the next thing. At the end, there ought to be somewhere in the discussion or something, sometimes it's findings and conclusions, a little summary of what they found. So you can see here I have like a little brief table of the findings. So that's helpful, right? I look to see whether or not this supports my position, and or not, you know, I mean, depending on what I'm interested in. And then sometimes in the limitations, there's also a section that tells you future research should be done on this or that, and that's a good way to see, you know, a good way to get ideas. But the other thing that's important about this page, you know, most of us don't even look at references because, I mean, until I started doing all this research, I never ever looked at the references of anything. But the references are really helpful. This tells you where all of this material came from, and these all, you can search every one of them and find them in Google Scholar if you wanted to read more on any of these topics. And all of these references are right from the paper. So if you go back here in the beginning at the Lit Review or whatever, and you see here we have Bosshart 2001, Marsh and Roche 1997, you can go back here to the end. Hang on, I gotta get it back here. And you see there's this full site on the Bosshart paper, comparing student and instructor evaluations of teaching, the Journal of Economic Education, and you can go find that exact thing, and then the same with the other one. So that's a quick summary on how to read scholarly research. You're going to do a lot of it in this class, and you will go through a lot of papers before you find the ones that are really useful for what you want. So I hope this is helpful, and I have other videos for other particular elements of the stuff that you need to do. So hopefully this is helpful.